All right, everybody, let's take a look at a specific character in the book, Crux. We don't learn a lot about him until this last chapter. He is quickly mentioned in chapter 2 as someone that Lenny and George see as they enter the farm, sweeping on the side of the bunkhouse. But he has no lines of dialogue until chapter 4. So let's take a look at his character. Let's begin by reading the directions. Characterization is the method used by a writer to develop how the character looks, acts, and thinks. Finding connections is one way to improve your critical thinking skills. Directions. Read the following passage, then respond to the questions to understand how one character fits into the novel. All right, so as we enter in to this small piece of dialogue, this is at the point in the novel where the men have left to go into town to the cat house, and Lenny is left behind. He goes around the back of the bunkhouse to the smaller room that Crux has all by himself. He enters into the room, and this is a piece of their conversation. Crux laughed again. A guy can talk to you and be sure you won't be blabbing. Couple of weeks and them pups will be all right. George knows what he's about. Just talks and you don't understand nothing. He leaned forward excitingly. This is just a talking and a busted black, so it don't mean nothing, see? You couldn't remember it anyways. I seen it over and over, a guy talking to another guy, and it don't make no difference. His excitement had increased until he pounded his knee with his hand. George can tell you screwy things and it don't matter. It's just the talking. It's just being with another guy. That's all. So before you go and answer these 4 questions below, let me just kind of walk you through some insights as it relates to this small piece of writing. Okay. So one thing I want you to know, notice is that in this first line he says, you won't go blabbing. So he's referring to the idea that Lenny is mentally challenged and handicapped. He doesn't remember the majority of things that are told to him. So basically, I can tell you anything, and by the time you walk out that door, you won't remember it. Okay? So the next piece I want to draw your attention to is, again, that you don't understand nothing, which goes back to that blabbing piece, right? Now, this he turns and refers to himself. This is just a busted black, so it don't mean nothing, see? So Crux understands that he is not a significant person on this farm, and he is not valued on the farm. He even refers to himself as someone in a term that is inappropriate, and he's busted, right? Because his back has been broken, and because of that he's hunched over and cannot do a lot of the same chores as the other gentlemen. And finally, his talking doesn't mean anything to anyone. George can tell you screwy things and it don't matter. It's just the talking. It's just being with another guy. So now he's going back almost to, yes, Lenny is mentally handicapped and doesn't remember anything, but almost in a way, George can tell him anything that's not even real and Lenny will believe it, right? But then he goes on to say it's just the talking. It's just being with another guy. So even though George can tell him things that aren't true and Lenny would believe them, there's also the idea there that George is fortunate to have at least somebody to talk to, just a physical presence next to him. So take some of these things that I just talked about into consideration as you read through these 4 questions. Number 1, do Crux' thoughts in this passage reflect any of the thoughts of the novel's other characters, right? So think about how Crux views himself. Does he see himself as valuable and worthy? Are there other characters in the novel that see themselves as valuable and worthwhile? So think about like Lenny's wife, Candy. 2, why would Crux emphasize his race in this passage? How does Crux' race contribute to his outcast nature? Why does he refer to himself in such a derogatory term, right? And as being a busted back one. Okay, why would he do that? 3, what is the significance of talking to another guy to crooks? Okay, so that's these last 2 sentences here that I brought up. There's 2 significant reasons. 4, what would it take for crooks to feel any degree of acceptance among the workers? Okay, and that's kind of an opinion. What do you think it would take for these workers to make crooks feel like he was a valued member of society? Okay, all right, so go ahead and answer these questions. When you're done with this analysis and you've answered the 10 reading comprehension questions, go ahead and turn this in.